Alright, hello everybody. Friendly Red here, back with yet another report of upcoming games on my radar. Going into this month, I was kind of expecting it to be a pretty quick and easy one to cover, but as I looked into it further, I found out there were quite a lot more releases this month that I hadn't realized were occurring. Additionally, there were quite a few games I didn't know about that were releasing this month too, so overall, this will be quite a stacked video. With that in mind, it's probably best we get into it, but not before the usual disclaimer. Please keep in mind that release dates are always subject to change, and what's presented in this video may be out of date by the time it is posted. We were so close to making it through April without any delays, but sadly, we did see one game discussed then pushed back into this month, that being Yasha, Legends of the Demon Blade, going from a release on April 24th to May 15th. I guess that was the trade-off for getting the Oblivion remaster shadow dropped, huh? Anyways, with all the setup complete, let's get into the Red's radar for May of 2025. Kicking things off on the 8th, we have the release of The Midnight Walk. Right away, we gotta talk about the art style on this one. The Midnight Walk looks to utilize actual clay sculptures, cardboard, and other real-world materials to make up its world and characters, resulting in a wildly unique and striking-looking game. If I were to liken it to anything, I'd say the obvious comparisons are to Tim Burton's animated films, or the stop-motion and claymation films of Aardman Animations, namely the Wallace and Gromit films. It certainly looks as though the developers over at Moonhood Studio are putting their inspirations and craft to great use here, as the style looks to fit the game they're trying to make perfectly. Described as a dark fantasy adventure, they'll take on the role of the Burnt One, traversing a strange and dangerous world, all while learning more about its inhabitants and history. You'll also be paired up with a companion known as Potboy, who seemingly acts as a traveling buddy and guide, and can illuminate the darker paths and parts of the world you may find yourself in with his flame. It looks like there will be a good mix of exploration, puzzles, and some light stealth action bits, mainly where you run into monsters that roam the land. Running, hiding, or perhaps scaring them off with the fire looks to be your best chance of surviving these encounters, but it does also look like you'll be able to at least partially fight back, as we see the Burnt One wielding some kind of firearm cannon thing in some of the footage. I doubt you'll actually be able to take out the monsters, and imagine it may work like the flamethrower did in Alien Isolation, where you could temporarily impede the xenomorph's assault, giving you time to run and hide before it was back on the prowl. I'll be very curious to see how this one turns out, but I can say that, on the visuals and art side of things, the team over at Moonhood is making a very strong first impression. Oh, and one other thing to note is that this game can actually be played in both standard and VR modes, and I gotta say, this might just get me to finally get back into my headset. I think it'll be cool to at least try some of it out in VR, but it may be compelling enough in that mode to make me want to play the whole game that way. The Midnight Walk will be releasing on Thursday, May 8th for PS5 and PC. Next up, the 15th of May brings with it the latest entry in the modern-day Doom series, that being Doom: The Dark Ages. Oh god, I don't even know where to begin with this one. There's so much amazing stuff we've already seen in the few trailers out for the game, like the new shield you get to use alongside your arsenal of firearms, allowing you to parry and reflect against attacks from your demonic foes. Or how about the giant Doomslayer mecha you get to pilot? Or the cybernetic dragon equipped not only with laser wings and machine guns, but a full-on freaking gas pedal? Not to mention the core movement and gunplay, which will no doubt be just as fast, brutal, and fun as it was in the prior two entries. I just know this game is going to kick so much ass, and leave me with a big dumb smile on my face while I'm playing it, especially if I'm already feeling this giddy about it from just the trailers alone. On the technical side of things, it's great to clearly see that the devs are utilizing the extra power of current gen and PCs to make the most out of this new entry, with the Dark Ages featuring the most open and enemy-rich levels we've seen in the modern series yet. I think that, alongside the crazy and cool stuff I already mentioned, plus the boosted production and focus on the narrative and cast this time around, will make for the most distinct Doom game yet. And I seriously cannot wait to get my hands on this one. It's going to be a red-soaked FPS extravaganza, and getting to experience the origins of Hell's Fear of the Slayer will be nothing short of spectacular. Doom: The Dark Ages will be releasing on Thursday, May 15th for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Just a few days after we enter the Dark Ages of Doom, the 19th brings with it a game I didn't even know existed until making this video, but one that I'm happy to have learned about, given how it looks. Nitro Express is the name of the game, and it's looking to bring some top-tier side-scrolling action to a PC, or PC handheld, near you. I think this one caught my eye due to its style, as it boasts some truly great-looking and detailed pixel art, both in its environments and enemies. Looks as though no screen space is going to waste, I can always appreciate some finely crafted pixel art. On the gameplay front, Nitro Express looks to be a typical shoot 'em up, but there are some mechanics and features that make this one stand out from the few shmups I've played. For starters, you aren't playing as some sort of spaceship or some other kind of mechanized vehicle or entity, but rather a boots-on-the-field soldier. Or, a cute pixel girl, as the store page describes, capable of full 360-degree free aim with the numerous weapons you can find and equip. Rifles, SMGs, snipers, rockets, and more, the arsenal looks to be quite wide and varied, which, combined with the different equipable grenades and gadgets, should make for quite the customizable and enjoyable experience, regardless of what you may end up enjoy using. And speaking on the guns, there does seem to be a rather unique mechanic tied to them, or at least unique for this genre of game, that being how your stance actually affects their handling. Similar to what you may find in an FPS game, you can crouch or stop moving entirely to gain better accuracy with your equipped weapon, which can also make it do more damage to enemies. It seems like this will be more important for some gun types than others, and overall, it's a pretty different approach to how most other shmups operate. Lastly, I want to briefly mention the radio comms, as the store page calls them, which act as the main dialogue segments for each stage, and move the narrative along. Personally, I just really like how these look, being an obvious homage to the codec calls you'd see in the Metal Gear Solid games. But if you prefer to ignore them and focus only on the gameplay, the game gives you that option, which is nice to see for those who want to just get right into things. All combined, Nitro Express is looking to be a charming, unique, and fun take on the shoot-'em-up genre, and I'm very glad I learned of its existence, and impending release, when doing my research for this video. It's currently slated to only be releasing on Steam, though the webpage does have mentions of the Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox consoles, so it may make its way to those platforms in due time. I certainly hope it does, as the more people who can play this one, the better. Nitro Express will be releasing on Monday, May 19th for PC. Two days later, a long-awaited sequel finally makes its debut, after seeing a few delays from its initially planned 2023 release. Indeed, Fantasy Life I, the girl who steals time, will finally arrive on the 21st, and I'm excited to finally be able to experience this series. In case you don't know, the original Fantasy Life was a bit of a sleeper hit back on the 3DS, offering up an exciting alternative to games like Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, and other life sim games that were out at the time. It combined the familiar life sim gameplay of those other titles, and married it alongside more fantasy RPG-like mechanics and settings, allowing you to take up one of several different roles, or lives, as they're officially called, swapping between them to carry out different tasks, usually falling under the categories of either crafting, gathering, or battling. That last one is key, at least for me, because I've always thought that adding in some simple but fun action to these more chill, laid-back games would be cool. Obviously, being more relaxed is usually the point of these kinds of games, which explains why most of them avoid any type of action or combat. But I don't know. I think if done well, it could really add to the experience, which is a big reason why Fantasy Life always interested me. Of course, the fantasy setting also helps a lot, which is another great excuse to have combat in there, as there are usually going to be some mischievous monsters and critters in any fantasy setting that may want nothing more than to deplete your health bar down to 0. Thankfully, everything that made the original title as beloved as it was, and still is, looks to return in the sequel, just with a much larger world to explore, more lives to switch between, with seemingly all of the original ones from the first game returning, and a new time traveling mechanic, which should no doubt be cool, but also is still kind of vague as to what exactly it does to affect the overall gameplay. Also, as a quick aside, I didn't know that the man, the myth, the legend, Nobuo Uematsu, was the composer for the original 3DS game. Pretty crazy that he had a hand in that original game, and I really hope that some of the music he made for the original returns here for the sequel. Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, will be releasing on Wednesday, May 21st for PS4, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Nearing the end of the month, and exactly 1 week after Fantasy Life, May 28th graces us with the first ever Yo-Yo-Vania. That is to say, a Metroidvania game with a focus on yo-yos, I suppose. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo is the game, and it does look to hold true to its claim of being the first Yo-Yo-Vania, with the usual exploration and platforming, puzzle solving, and combat all being present here, with a focus on performing these tasks with your trusty yo-yo to help you out. You'll be able to utilize the double yo to attack your foes, move quickly across the city, traverse perilous sections of the environment, ricochet it off walls, and even create what looks to be a damaging trail that harms any enemies who touch it, with many more functions and powers that will surely unlock as you progress through the game. Honestly, I really dig the art, setting, and characters in this game, and I've always had an appreciation for yo-yos, particularly when they're being used for, we'll say, non-yo-yo-like activities. Aside from the yo-yo focus, it's also cool to see that this is a top-down Metroidvania, which is very unique and uncommon, I think. I mean, I can't think of any others in the genre that are played from a top-down perspective, as while most of them are 2D, like this title here, they're usually side-scrollers. From the artwork, cinematics, and of course gameplay itself, Pipistrello is really checking all the right boxes for me, and my excitement for it is right on up there with the other Juggernaut game releases for the month. But while those other games may have fancier graphics and larger budgets, they are severely lacking in the Pepita Pipistrello department, so they automatically lose some brownie points for that alone. Pipistrello and the Cursed Yo-Yo will be releasing on Wednesday, May 28th for PS4, PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Finally, May 30th brings with it the release of Elden Ring Nightreign, a standalone spin-off of everyone's favorite open-world masterpiece from 2022. FromSoft certainly didn't waste any time giving us even more Elden Ring content to enjoy, did they? Just 3 years after the original game released, and about 1 year since Shadow of the Erdtree, we've got even more Elden Ring to sink our teeth into. Though Nightreign is structured quite a bit differently from the game it's based upon, and the FromSoft Souls games in general. First and foremost, this is meant to primarily be enjoyed as a cooperative, multiplayer experience, with up to 3 players picking from one of a handful of pre-existing characters, each with their own abilities, weapon specializations, cosmetics, lore, and so on. From here, you'll venture out into the game world proper, which is where the game will become a bit more familiar to those who've played Elden Ring, as you'll explore to find better gear, kill enemies, and build your strength up using the runes you collect. Unlike in the original game, however, the environment you explore won't be as vast and open to players, with Nightreign adopting a battle royale-like zone mechanic. As more time passes during the run, which takes place over the course of 3 in-game days, the zone you can explore and play in gets smaller and smaller, eventually leading to a boss encounter. If you defeat the boss, then the run continues, but if you don't, it'll be back to the Round Table Hold, where you can then prepare for another run. If you've ever played a roguelike game, you can sort of view Nightreign as an Elden Ring take on that genre, as it focuses more on quicker gameplay, a run-based structure, and powering yourself up over time even if you can't complete a full cycle, as even if you lose, you'll retain a certain currency that you can use to acquire permanent upgrades, which can be equipped on your characters for future attempts. It's all a quite bit different from the original Elden Ring, and FromSoft's usual gameplay structure, but I'm really here for it. Making your own characters and builds is always a good time, but I actually enjoy the idea of classes within a FromSoft game, and I suppose it works out well within the context of this being a multiplayer-focused game. It'll be fun to coordinate with your friends, and come up with synergies and team-ups with all the different characters you can play as. I absolutely adore Elden Ring and all of their other Souls games, but I think it's cool to see them try and do something so different from anything they've attempted before, while still trying to fit within the mold of their games, if that makes sense. Plus, Nightreign is exciting for another reason, that being the crossover elements it has with the Dark Souls games. I've not really seen any trailers or other promotional material for the game since the reveal, so I'm unsure if it's been explained yet or not, but for some reason, characters and bosses from the original 3 Dark Souls games will be present in Nightreign, and I'm quite excited to take on some returning bosses. It'll be interesting to see who they pick to bring back from those games, and how and if they change up a lot about them, as Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3 are quite a bit different from Elden Ring. I wonder how the translation from those games will go into this one. Between this and the upcoming Duskbloods for Nintendo Switch 2, we're entering a bit of a different era of FromSoft games, with them experimenting with multiplayer-focused experiences. It may be different from what people are used to from them, and perhaps not what most fans would want out of FromSoft, but I'm confident that they will ultimately deliver with these games, and I look forward to diving into this strange, but familiar, take on the world of Elden Ring. Elden Ring Nightreign will be releasing on Friday, May 30th for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Before we get into the proper conclusion of this video, there are a few more releases I wanted to give mention to here. I didn't have as much to say about these games here as the other ones, primarily due to most of them being sequels to games I've yet to experience, and would want to do so before playing these sequels. Still, new good games releasing are still worth mentioning. So without further ado, here are a few honorable mentions for May of 2025. Out on May 8th for consoles and PC, Spirit of the North 2 allows players to once again experience life as a Red Fox, though with decidedly more platforming, puzzle solving, and supernatural elements than what most Red Foxes probably experience in their lives. Probably. On May 22nd, developer Mercury Steam, most known for their work on Metroid Samus Returns and Metroid Dread, releases their new game titled Blades of Fire. It looks to be a solid third-person action-adventure game with a heavy emphasis on crafting and maintaining all kinds of different melee weapons. Mercury Steam has done phenomenal work with Metroid, and I trust they will deliver a solid game here as well. This one will be out for PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. The next day, Capcom is bringing back a PS2-era classic in the form of Onimusha 2, Samurai's Destiny Remastered. I have next to no knowledge and exactly zero experience with this series, but I may look into trying out this remaster at some point, as I know it's a renowned series of action games, and the new title they're releasing next year certainly has piqued my interest. This one's coming to PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC. Wacky shenanigans will ensue on the 28th as 2AT releases. This one's got the creator of Katamari Damacy behind it, so you can expect it to be super weird, but oddly charming in its own way. Rather than rolling anything and everything up into a ball, this game here has you experience the life of a young teen who's constantly stuck in a T-pose. Sounds like it should make for a funny time, and also a potentially eye-opening experience, as we get to see just how frustrating life would be if we were all constantly T-posing. This game's currently only slated for release on Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, and PC. Next up on the 29th, third installment in the Fuga Melodies of Steel series releases. I've yet to play either of the previous 2 entries in this series, but I've always really appreciated the artwork and characters. It's got a great illustrated or painterly-like look to it all, and very cute characters throughout. Outside of the presentation, it seems people do quite enjoy the story and turn-based tactical gameplay, so if any or all of this looks and sounds like it'd be up your alley, then for sure go and check out the first 2 games ahead of 3's release, which will be happening on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series consoles, Nintendo Switch, and PC. And finally, May 30th brings with it Lost Soul Aside. Well, never mind. Well, that was a lot, wasn't it? Indeed. As I said at the beginning, May ended up housing way more games I'm interested in than I realized, but that's not a bad thing. Well, except for my wallet. Obviously, I can't buy and play all of these as soon as they release, but as I like to say, these are all games I'd love to get to at some point, and I think they're all ones that should certainly be on anyone's own personal radar, provided you enjoy the gameplay types or genre. Personally, when it comes to the priority pickups for this month, I'd say they're going to consist of Doom the Dark Ages, Nitro Express, Pipistrello, and Elden Ring Nightreign. Nitro and Pippi won't be full price releases, so those make them pretty easy day one purchases, and Nightreign similarly is priced lower than usual, starting at only $40. Dark Ages will be on Game Pass, which I do have access to, but honestly, I'll probably end up buying it on Steam anyways, as I wouldn't mind having the early access to the game, as well as the future DLC expansions that'll release for it. Oh, and I'll also probably be picking up Yasha, Legends of the Demon Blade on its new release date, that being May 15th. The delay is unfortunate, but at least it wasn't a super lengthy one, similar to Bionic Bay. I'm pretty sure this is the busiest month of releases so far this year, and there's tons of games here that should satisfy any and all players out there. Here's to a great month of new releases. But with all that being said, I think that'll do it for this video. If you made it to the end, I thank you for watching. Your continued viewership and support is greatly appreciated. Hope I was able to entertain, inform, and perhaps interest you in checking out some new games you may not have known about for yourself. And last, but certainly not least, as always, I'll see you next time.